All right. Well, welcome to everyone who is joining me for this Approach to Holistic Health for Cats webinar. I'm excited to be here. And oh my gosh, we have a cardinal sitting right on my bushes. You just came over here to say hello, and that means one of my cats in spirit is here. That is their message. So, oh, I hope I can get through this. So I am so excited to have all of you here and welcome you. This is going to be, I hope, a real eye-opening experience, and I hope I don't cry this whole time. Why did he have to come and say hi? For those of you who do not know me, I am Pam Roussel with Perfectly Holistic, and my journey began probably, gosh, I want to say around 2005, honestly, if we go all the way back to where I started. I am going to share my screen so I don't forget to do that too. So hang in there. And if you guys would just remember to keep yourself muted, that would be awesome, so that we don't pick up anything from background. So, okay, here we go. Can everyone see the screen? I think you can. I think so. Okay. Okay, great. So, deep breath. Make sure I'm all good here. Okay, no more cardinals, please. Okay, so as I was saying, so thank you so much for joining. I have a passion for cats and holistic health. And, you know, through my journey, I was able to blend using both of these passions, because I feel like cats really don't get the attention that they need, right? And all of you guys are here. You probably are passionate cat lovers too, like me. I have had cats all my life since I was a baby. They have a picture of me in a stocking because I was born like in December. And I'm on the floor inside a stocking, and there's a beautiful white kitty sitting next to me. So you could say I was imprinted very, very young and love kitties. Kitties are my passion. So I currently have two kitties, one Aylin and Gunner. And if you follow us on social media, you see their pictures and their videos, and they are my hearts. But let me back up and just talk about, just real quick, my journey began many years ago, back when I was working in full-time in the fitness industry as a group exercise instructor and sales and all of that. And being a workout fanatic, I injured my foot, and I injured a bone on the bottom of the foot from impact. I wore out a pair of shoes way too long. Don't do that. It's not good. And so basically the little bone got inflamed, and the podiatrist that I went to put me in one of those walking boot. Everybody's seen those before. It's not fun to be in a walking boot. And we tried that. We tried injections in my foot, just to reduce inflammation. Nothing helped. And I was injured. I probably dealt with that injury close to a year. I didn't wear the boot for a year, but it was like, gosh, 3 or 4 months in a boot and not getting results. And so I was on a vacation in Vancouver, Canada, and we were driving through Chinatown and looking at this it was a market, and you could see all these signs hanging down over the fruits and vegetables and herbs and everything. And everything was in Chinese and English. And something like, I had an epiphany. Something triggered in me, and I was like, when I get back home, I need to go find a Chinese doctor. Because if Chinese medicine didn't work, they still wouldn't be using it after 6,000 years, right? And I had never looked outside of my medical paradigm. And so that was like my first little nudge, like, what you're doing isn't working. Why don't you go see what else is out there? So when I got home, I did some online searching, and I found a Chinese doctor who didn't live far from me, who did acupuncture and herbal medicine. And I made an appointment, and I drugged my husband at the time with me, because I am terrified of needles. I cannot explain to you why. It is something that is so deeply rooted in me. I just do not like needles. And so I went to see her, She's from China, so she's very hard for me to understand. But she worked on me that day, and she worked on me for about 8 weeks. And after 8 weeks, she told me not to come back. And I looked at her like she was like something was wrong. I'm like, what do you mean don't come back? She goes, you're good. You don't need to come back anymore. So long story short, my foot healed in about 8 weeks that I had spent months, if not a year, trying to work with conventional means. And that was a big wake up call to me. So I started digging like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. What else do I need to know that I don't know yet? So I started looking at nutrition. And granted, this was about me, right? This was the human side of medicine at the time. But I started looking into herbs. I started looking into nutrition. I started to look at sources of toxins. And I just became hungry for information because clearly the paradigm that I had been living in wasn't serving me. And so that's really what triggers you to get out of your box, right? To get out of your box, to get out of your comfort zone and start to ask questions like, why isn't this getting better? What can I do differently to get a different outcome? And so, long story short, I started to implement these types of changes for my cats. I had a cat who had pancreatitis. I had a cat who had feline acne. And after multiple veterinary visits, and they weren't helping find the problem, they were just putting band-aids on the problem and suggesting very expensive veterinary food, and couldn't give me answers like what she's allergic to, what's causing the sensitivity, what's causing the vomiting. All they could tell me was, oh, we would just have to feed, very expensive vet food, and we'd have to do more testing, but we really can't tell you what the problem is. And this one vet, he's like, he's just going to have to be on medication the rest of his life. And I'm like, that's not good enough. That's not solving the problem. So that's when I took my cats to a naturopath clinic, and they did muscle testing, and they were able to tell me right then and there through muscle testing what was causing stress and imbalance and sensitivity in my cats and what we needed to do to fix it, whether that was a change of diet or herbs to clear out parasites or whatever it was. And then they used energy medicine to do energy clearing work, so that one of my cats who had the food sensitivity, she was able to eat chicken the rest of her life and never had any more skin outbreaks. So that was another one of those major steps in my journey that was like, aha, okay, there is something to this energy work. There is something to this alternative paradigm that I am now very excited about, because I was seeing changes. I was seeing healing. I was seeing results, and it was fascinating. So fast forward several years later, I took a muscle testing workshop, and I made it my passion to become an expert at it. So I started diving in and practicing all the techniques that I learned at the time. And I kept continuing to learn and educate, right? So many times we wait around for other people to bring things to us, but we really have to take that initiative and go seek it out, right? So that's what I want you to keep thinking about today. So I want you to think about why you're here, what brought you here, where you are in your journey. Maybe you are just waking up and your cat is like trying to teach you something, because I strongly believe that our cats are our greatest teachers, and they come into our lives with a soul contract, with a mission, with an agreement that we had to be together, to learn something together, for me to go through experiences, for the cats to go through experiences, and we're all here to learn and to grow. And that's part of our conscious evolution. So I think it's fascinating, the lessons when we sit down and we are open to learning those lessons instead of getting stuck on a hamster wheel. So that's kind of what I wanted to present to you today, to give you a different perspective to what a holistic approach to cat health can look like. And I want this to be a beginning. I want this to be like the the little planting the seeds in many cases for some of you who have never explored this before. I want you to come to this with curiosity, and I want you to think with an open mind, because you don't know what you don't know. And that's one of the best little mantras that I have carried for probably the past 20 years is you don't know what you don't know. So with that being said, let me also say this. If you guys have specific questions, go ahead and just drop them in the chat, because when I get through with the presentation, it's not going to be super long. Then we'll answer questions at the end. All right. Okay, so let's talk about what is holistic health. Holistic health is really, it's a paradigm that looks at the entire animal, the entire being, the entire person. It looks at emotional health. It looks at the physical side. It looks at the spiritual side. It doesn't zero in on one little symptom or organ of the body. Okay, it looks at the big picture, because you have to understand that all of the body systems, organs, glands, and tissues, they work synergistically together. So they don't operate as little islands, you know, separated from everything else. They interconnect, they communicate. In Chinese medicine, there are meridians that are energy lines. You know, it is a system. It is all based on energy, and energy is always flowing. And so if there is a stagnation of energy in that body, it can start to create an issue with that specific organ or tissue or gland or area of the body where there's stagnation. And so then you start to see symptoms. So I want you to keep thinking about synergy. I want you to think about the whole picture. And one of the main things that I want you to think about is finding the root cause of an issue. So when our cats get sick, or if something is going on with our cats, one of the first things that we are conditioned in our society, in our world, to do is find a pill to fill, you know, to cure the ill, right? That's something that we have been programmed into us, you know, and our parents and our grandparents and all of that. It's just the medical system to put a Band-Aid on a symptom. And it's the same thing with veterinary medicine. Most times it's like, oh, he's vomiting. Well, here's some anti-vomiting medicine, and you know, here's some prescription food. Well, that doesn't really tell me why the cat is vomiting. So I want you to start thinking in terms of questions. So ask the question, why is this happening? Ask your vet, why is this happening? Not just what to do about it, because in my opinion, from the way that I work, when you know the answer to why, then you can get the what. So when we find the root cause of why things are going on, that will point you in the direction of what you need to do to help the body heal and rebalance. So that is one of probably the most important things I want you to take away today, is start asking the question, why is this happening? Why is this going on? Whether it be physical, emotional, or whatever, you have to kind of step back and you have to look at the big picture again. You can't zero in, because when we have a myopic view, we miss the forest for the trees, right? So step back and take the 40,000 foot view of everything, and then try to figure out why things are going on. A holistic approach also encompasses the physical. It encompasses spiritual components as well as emotional health, because they all interact, right? So I want you to think about one other thing, is physical symptoms are often caused by some kind of an emotional component. So in other words, there's usually, I would say 99% of the time, there's an emotional component to whatever is ailing us, whatever is ailing our cats. So we can't rule out an emotional side, because cats are sentient beings, and they are some of them are very sensitive, others less so, but you have to remember that they have emotions too. And when things are not going right in their world, they can be very vocal about that, and they can show you that they're not pleased, right? So we can't disregard the emotional aspect and their spiritual aspect. How is their overall spirit? How are their behavior? How is their mood? How is their energy? You need to look at all of that. Okay, so one of the things I want you to think about are all the different ways that we can bring in complementary approaches to boost the synergy in the body. We want to think about natural, alternative, complementary things that we can do that are non-toxic. So instead of the traditional medical or veterinary model, which is all about drugs, prescription food, surgery, this and that. And there is a time and a place for veterinary medicine, don't get me wrong, especially in emergencies and traumas and things like that. But what can we do that's more natural? How can we support the body in a more holistic way that works with the body, not trying to suppress something or change something chemically in the body? How can we support the body and how it naturally works? That's what I want you to think about. Are there alternative things that we can add, that we can supplement? Are there additional techniques that we can use? And the answer is yes. And there are a lot of them. When I started into my own holistic health journey, probably 18, 17 years ago, I have to tell you, back then, there wasn't as much out there for pets in the natural pet space as there are now in terms of alternative techniques. Yes, there's homeopathy and herbs and things like that, but some of the advances in just medical stuff that's come up has just exploded, I would say, over the last 10 to 15, 10, probably 10 to 12 years. So there's a lot more things out there now, and some vets are really starting to seek some of these things out. So we'll be talking about some of those. But some of the natural things like herbs, whether that is actual herbal tinctures or powders, the herbs can be powerful tools. Remember, that's like nature's medicine. Everything that we have been given here on this earth has been put here for a reason. And there is so much power in plants. I love it's fascinating. If you don't know who Rita Hogan is, go look up Rita Hogan. And she's also on Facebook too, but she is an herbalist that works with pets, and she is phenomenal, and her knowledge is phenomenal. But that's, she's one of those resources you're going to want to go write down. But herbs are powerful, and they support the body naturally, and they don't take a whole lot, which is awesome because they're in a natural state and their body can use them without having to, put them through a pharmaceutical process in a laboratory and all of that. It's just plant stuff. Homeopathy is another great tool that you can explore. And homeopathy for pets is so simple. And I have to credit Dr. Will Falconer for this, for introducing me to single remedies. I had some experience with combination remedies, and both are great. Don't get me wrong. You'll find in the homeopathic world, the practitioners who are the experts, they tend to have their preferred methods. But I have seen success with combination remedies, and I have seen great success with single remedies. So you have to just explore what's out there and find what resonates best for you. But homeopathy is super easy. It's based on the premise of like cures like. And so they take very tiny, homeopathic amounts that are diluted and diluted and diluted up to thousands of times. So there's absolutely no residual product left in that remedy after 12 dilutions. So it is basically energy medicine at its finest. So it's amazing, the power of homeopathy. I use it all the time, and it's so simple to use because you can basically make remedies with water. And for cat people, how our cats do not like the taste of nasty things, right? So herbs can be a little challenging for some cats, but homeopathy, you can you can make remedies using water and the little pellets, and they don't taste anything because it's water, it's energy medicine. So that's why I love using it. Another thing that you can add to your toolkit or start to explore more is things like acupuncture and chiropractic work for pets. Yes, they actually do have chiropractic vets. And I had one visit me this week because Gunner needed some adjustments. His beautiful Reiki energy provider who was here today, Deanna, she was picking up some sense that, you know, something's going on with him. And then I had one of my other practitioners look at his eyes, and she's like, something's going on with his spine. And then he was also telling me that, you know, my legs, you know, I'm aching, and you could hear him click, click, click when he was walking. And so I finally got a chiropractor over here, and she just gently, I mean, so gently, I didn't even realize she was doing it, but she was just working all down his legs, his feet, all up and down his spine, his neck, just gentle manipulation, adjustment. It wasn't anything like, you know, we go to the human chiropractor and it's like, you know, it wasn't anything like that. And he loved it. He just laid there and he was so relaxed and he was comfortable and he was purring. And when she was done, he got up and he went on the floor and he scratched. And then he got on the floor and he was playing with catnip toys. And she goes, oh, that's a good sign because he's already feeling good. So I found it fascinating because I've never had that chiropractor work on my cats before. So that was fun. So highly, highly recommend that if your cat has any kind of mobility issue, even for senior cats, if they're having trouble just kind of getting around, maybe they're a little stiff, have some chiropractic work for them. Energy medicine is an awesome tool. I use this every day. Energy work can clear stress in the body. Energy work is like Reiki also. Reiki is a beautiful tool for clearing energy, stress, imbalance, chakra work, all of that. And it's amazing when you can clear stress energetically. It's like removing the static when you're trying to tune in a radio station, okay? So when you remove the static, you have a clear signal. And that is what energy work is like to the body. It's like you're removing all the negative, all the static, anything that's causing energetic stress. And when you take that away, it's like the body can just relax and it can start the healing process. So I love that. There's also really cool tools like biofeedback machines, bioresonance equipment, and naturopaths have these quite commonly. Sometimes you'll find holistic practitioners for pets use these. I use muscle testing, which is a type of biofeedback also, very, very, very basic biofeedback therapy. But there's things like hyperbaric oxygen therapies. There's fecal transplants. There's ozone. There's laser. There's so much out there that can improve your cat's condition, that can help support the body in a more natural way that promotes healing. And it's a great complement to, you know, additional treatments that they might be needing from the vet. So other things are like color therapy is very powerful. If you've never explored color therapy, I highly encourage you to look into it because it's so simple. Basically, the premise is that color is all different vibrational frequencies. And it's not that the cat has to be able to see the color, it's the frequency that the color gives off. And the colors can support different areas of the body, different chakras. So whatever is out of balance, you provide that color as an option. I call it self-selection, and let the cat select when they need to go get support for whatever is imbalanced energetically, and they will seek out those colors for themselves. Crystal therapy is another great tool for you if you love crystals. I love crystals, and I have a bunch of different crystals, but they're beautiful, and they all have, again, the vibrational frequency and different properties, and they're great to use for healing. Great complementary tool. Flower essences are another great tool if you've never tried those. It's kind of like homeopathy, but with plants. And they're made very similar, using light and plant and water. And those frequencies can also support the body emotionally, physically, spiritually. And it's a great complementary tool to use. Let me go back to herbs for 1 second. My very good friend, Julianne Thorne with Naturally Cats, is amazing with herbs. So she's big on self-selection, which is zoopharmacognosy. With the animal knows what they need, they will self-select it. So even placing actual herbs like tea, like loose leaf herbs and those kinds of herbs, you can put them down on a towel, and just like a little pile, a half a teaspoon, and every different herb has different properties, and the cats will self-select exactly what they need. So if you want to learn more about that, look up naturallycats.co.uk. She's awesome. Animal communication is another one of my favorite tools. And I know I have animal communicator here today as well. I believe she's here. And animal communication is a real thing. I can tell you that because I have done it myself. And when we are able to tap in telepathically and hear these messages that our animals want to share with us, it is life-changing. It is powerful. They have so much that they want to tell us, that they want to teach us, that they want to share. They can tell us more insight into how they're feeling, what their needs are, how we can support them, lessons that they're here to teach us. It is mind-blowing. And if you've ever had a cat transition or a pet transition, one of the things that I tell all my clients is put some money aside, and when you're ready, do an animal communication session with your pet in spirit, because oh my gosh, it is probably one of the most cherished things you will ever hold on to for the rest of your life. That conversation that they have with you can be life-changing. And that's all I'll say, because I'm gonna cry. So because I've done it myself. So if you hold guilt of any kind because of anything that's happened with your pets, bad decisions, things that you didn't know, things that went wrong, and you were holding some kind of guilt or whatever, I suggest that you do an animal communication session with your pet, whether it's still alive or whether it's in spirit, it doesn't matter. And it will be amazing for you. So I highly recommend that. A couple other things that you can think about considering is mind, body, spirit release. It is an energy medicine modality that identifies cellular imprints in the body from traumatic experiences, negative emotions, traumas, and not just trauma, but anytime you have any kind of a negative experience, things that impact us emotionally can imprint in our bodies. And it's not just for people, but it's for pets. And I do this every day with my clients, is I can tap in using muscle testing to figure out what those trapped emotions are. Where are those cellular imprints being stored? Are they, because they're stored in tissues, they're stored in glands and in organs. And we can be triggered subconsciously whenever we have a memory can trigger all those emotions coming up again. Seeing a person, hearing a song, just thinking about something that's happened in the past, and all of those chemical reactions that happened when it originally happened can start to happen again in the body. And your body doesn't know the difference because it's trapped in the subconscious. So it's amazing to use this technique for cats and for dogs, just to help them let go of stuff that they're holding on emotionally, that's holding them back. Because like I said before, there's always an emotional component to health. So the emotions can influence the physical symptoms and things come to the surface. So that's why I really love that technique. EFT and tapping is another technique that you can look into as well. It's another way of releasing those patterns and thoughts that we get stuck on to help remove blocks. So if you've never looked into EFT, that might be something else that would be of interest. And this is not by any means a complete list of options. These are just like some highlights that to give you some ideas so that you can take this and go start to explore and see what resonates with you and what you would like to learn more about. All right, now we're going to just jump over to nutrition. When it comes to cats, I am a huge advocate of a species appropriate diet. And that basically means look at the biology of the cat. They are carnivores. They're from their mouth to their digestive tract to their behavior. They are wired to be meat eaters, not to be herbivores or grazers. So we need to feed our cats appropriately to their biology. And that is when you really see a change in their health. I used to feed kibble diets, not going to lie, because that's what I saw my parents feed my cats, right, when we were growing up. So a lot of people just do what they grew up doing, right? We didn't know any better. We just thought the cat food was cat food, right? What I have learned over the last 15 years is that all cat food is not the same. And so when you start to dive into the reality of the pet food ingredients and what's in the cat food these days, what manufacturers think that, what they're using to reduce cost, instead of putting high quality ingredients in their cat's food, they're substituting lower quality ingredients with questionable sourcing, like rendered products, meat and food, or I'm going to say feed ingredients because it's really feed. It's not food because it's not considered human grade food. It's not stuff that we would eat. This is like leftover stuff from the food industry that gets tossed out. Pet food can also include 4D meats. This is meats from diseased, dying, disabled, and dead animals that they just collect and they take to rendering plants and they put it into pet food. The reality is quite horrific. So we need to start looking at what we're feeding our cats. So I know that not everybody can afford to feed raw food, but let me tell you, raw food in many cases is becoming less expensive than canned food. So keep that in mind when it comes to considering how to improve your cat's diet. Whatever you can do to improve your cat's diet is great. We just have to start taking little steps, right? Do what you can afford to do. Species appropriate is high quality meat-based diets, at the very minimum wet diet, and not the dry food, because cats are carnivores. And when you look at the guaranteed analysis of dry food, even the high quality, I'll quote unquote, organic brands of dry food, they still have to use some source of a starch or carbohydrate in that food to get it to go through the extruder to stick together, right? And the sugar or the carbohydrates in that dry food is broken down as sugar. Now, biologically, cats don't have any requirement for carbohydrates. In the wild, they might get some from the stomach of their prey that might be like 3% at the most, and it's probably from grasses and things like that their prey is eaten. So cats just don't have the amount of amylase in their mouth or in their pancreas that's needed to digest the amount of carbohydrates that are in dry foods. And so the result is you have cats with pancreatitis, you have GI issues, you have diarrhea, you have vomiting. It leads to things like diabetes and obesity. It leads to cancer and IBD and lymphoma. So we have to take a real hard look at how we're feeding our cats. So The other thing that we can do to help them is through targeted supplementation. And this is not going to be a deep dive into that, but there are ways that you can do to improve their condition, or to improve their diet. Things like digestive enzymes, things like adding sardines, maybe even egg yolk powder, adding a little bit of fiber to their food so that they are pooping on a regular basis and not being all constipated. Um, Maybe there's probiotics that are needed for a short time. Omega-3 oils are fantastic for cats. So it depends on what life stage your cat is in, and it depends on what kind of health they're in. But there are so many different things that we can do to improve their bowl and to just provide some additional dietary support, nutritional support through what they're eating. And then there's also traditional Chinese medicine elements. And I'm going to point this out real quick because Dr. Judy Morgan just came out with a line of pet food that is all based on the Chinese element of the pet. So there are 5 elements, and I have the 2 cats I have, one is an earth element, and you guys can go study the Chinese elements and just see what the characteristics are for the 5 Chinese elements. One of my cats is earth and one of them is water. So depending again on what element your cat is, you can find foods that support them and their element. And it's basically their composition. It looks at their behavior. It looks at their predispositions. It looks at their body type. It's a very comprehensive look at them as a whole from the Chinese medicine perspective. So it's fascinating. So Chinese elements are pretty powerful, and there's ways that you can support your cat's nutrition just by looking and knowing a little bit more about which element they are. All right, let's talk real quick about environmental factors. So from a holistic approach to cat health, we want to make sure that we look at their environment as a whole. And this can be environmental enrichment, number one. So we want to make sure that we're playing with our cats. Many of our cats these days live indoors, and their cousins in the wild were living outdoors, and they were exploring, and they had exposure to all these cool smells and plants and wildlife to chase and stalk. And then we bring them indoors, and then we know they have windows to look out, and they can get bored really easily unless we really take time to enrich their space. So things like vertical space is real important. Cats like to be up high where they can see over their domain, right? And they feel safe when they're up high. Rotating their toys is something that you can do so they don't get bored. You'll notice, you get a new toy and it lasts for a little while, and then they don't want to play with it anymore. Well, it's bored. So we got to put that away. We got to bring something else out that they haven't seen for a while to get them interested again. So we have to be creative. See if you can create some kind of a safe outdoor enrichment area, whether that be an outdoor catio, or whether they are possibly willing to be leash trained, and you can put them in a harness and take them outside where it's safe and let them smell the grass and let them walk through the bushes and go on a safari. I love doing safaris because I'm telling you, dogs are not the only ones who love safaris. My cats will sit out there and they'll stop and just smell everything. And so I have to just pack my patience and realize it's not about me, it's about them, and just let them enjoy being in the moment. See what you can do to catify your home. Jackson Galaxy is really, really big about catification. So if you want to learn more about how to catify your home and put shelves and tunnels and just boxes, and there's just so many things that you can do to be creative and create them a space that's fun where they can hunt and they can stalk and they can catch their prey and they can run around. We just have to think like a cat. We have to put ourselves in their position and go, what would I like if I was a cat? You know, and go with your cat's personalities. One of the things that we also need to think about is how do we minimize their toxic exposure? And this is really big because this is what I started thinking about way back in the middle 2000s after I was doing my wake up experience, right? I started to question the vaccines. My cats were indoors. They were super healthy. And I just, I would get the little postcard in the mail that says, oh, your cat's due for their annual vaccines. And I didn't even think about it. I would just load them up and take them all to the vet and get their shots. And they'd come back home and they would be like all, mopey and sleeping for the next 24 to 48 hours. And they just look like they feel miserable. And then one day I was just like, why am I doing that? I don't go get vaccines every year. I'm healthy. And they're not exposed to anything that would be necessary for. And I had a cat develop osteosarcomas because of vaccine, and the vet told me, he goes, oh, this is probably because of a vaccine that he was given. And I'm like, well, why didn't anybody tell me? And especially when he said, oh, your cat's indoors, he didn't even need that vaccine. And I'm like, well, why didn't anybody tell me that? Because I wouldn't have given it to him. So it started this whole questioning. And then I ran into Dr. Will Falconer, who wrote this amazing article on why are we giving our cats and dogs vaccinations every year? They don't need it. So I want you to start thinking about the vaccines that you're giving and understand there's a difference between immunization and immunity. So rather than revaccinating every single year when it's not necessary and it doesn't provide more immunity, you can just keep tests. You can do a titer test every 2 or 3 years. A titer test is TITER, which is a blood draw, and it measures the level of antibodies in the blood that can mount an immune response to that particular virus or disease that you're vaccinating for. And if your cat has immunity, then there's no reason to keep revaccinating. Over-vaccination is a huge problem in this country and worldwide because our animals are getting too many vaccines and it's causing chronic disease processes. And sadly, I think probably close to 75% of my clients are dealing with some kind of over-vaccination issue. So keep that in mind, be smart about vaccines and start to question, why am I doing this so often? And, there's no need. It can just start the disease process if we keep going down that road. I want you to also think about medications that you're using that are contributing to the toxic load in their body, specifically things like flea and tick medications. If your cat is indoors, they probably don't need flea and tick medications. And that is same thing for heartworm. You have to look at your environment. You have to look at their risk of exposure. And you have to be smart about those kinds of things. There are wonderful non-toxic products that you can try that can be very helpful. In some cases, if you live in a flea infested area and you can't get around it, yes, there are certain topical flea and ticks that you might need to use that are stronger from the veterinarian, but there are ways you can support the liver and the body to help detox all that out. So look at non-toxic, safe, natural flea topicals for cats, specifically for cats, because the dog products are often not recommended for cats. So it can cause seizures. It can cause nervous system disorders. It can cause death. We need to be smarter about how we're doing these medications. I want you to also look at herbicide exposure. So if you are having your house exterminated, what kind of products are they using? What kind of products are you using in your yards? Are you using things like Roundup and glyphosate products, these toxic chemicals that are sprayed on our lawns and our weeds and grasses and everything. Think about that, because if your cat is going outside, they're being exposed to that, and those are so deadly, and they are also contributing to this toxic load in our body and disease process. Look at the type of water that you're feeding. If you're feeding your cat, if you're putting out tap water, I highly recommend you not to do that. Go to the Environmental Working Group's website, ewg.org, and look up there's a water test that you can look up, not a test, but you can look up the results from your zip code. They've done water tests, and they can tell you how contaminated the tap water is in your city where you live. It's shocking. It's shocking. So spring water, reverse osmosis, things like that. We want pure water. And this is the same thing for you. Just be aware of what you're putting in you, the type of water you're drinking. We need to be mindful of that for our cats. Look at your indoor air quality. Get some fresh air. Open the windows. You know, they're saying, the studies have shown that our indoor air quality is more toxic than outdoor air quality because it doesn't get recirculated enough. And there's a lot of toxins that are in our home, in our flooring, and our cleaning products, and our air fresheners and things like that. So we need to look at what kind of air we're breathing and our cats are breathing. What kind of cleaning products are you using on your floors, in your bathrooms, in your sinks, in your counters, in your kitchens? You know, their little paws are being exposed to all of that. And then they bathe themselves how many hours a day? So they're ingesting all of those toxins. So we need to be mindful of what we're using in our home, because this is adding to their toxic load. And think of things like, now when you go buy cat beds and furniture and floor mats and things like that, it's not going to come with a label that says flame retardants included. So we have to do our due diligence and look for things that are flame retardant free. Look up the brands, look what you're buying, look at the materials. Flame retardants are endocrine disruptors, and they are in a lot of stuff in our homes. I see it a lot in pet beds that have the foam material. Some of the older furniture with the foam, and the floor mats with the squishy kind of things, not necessarily rubber, but other materials. You're going to have to do some research and look at the type of things in your home that might be contributing to endocrine disruption and chemical toxicity in our bodies, in our cats' bodies. All right, wrapping it up here, I just want to give you guys some learning resources so you can go do some more digging. There is a website, the American Holistic Veterinary Medical Association. If you want to go see if there is an integrative holistic vet in your area, you can look up by zip code and just go to their website, ahvma.org, and it will also tell you what their specialties are. So if it's acupuncture, chiropractic, herbal medicine, they'll have all those things listed that they do. I also recommend that you sign up for free newsletters. There's so much information out there. If you are just kind of jumping into this and starting to explore, education is powerful, right? So knowledge is power. The more you know, the better you can do, the better choices you can make. So Dr. Karen Becker at barkandwhiskers.com, she has her own blog on there, free newsletters every week. Dr. Will Falconer at vitalanimal.com. He has free newsletters. Dr. Judy Morgan has free newsletters every week. And there's a bunch of people out there, these really amazing integrative and holistic vets that are educating for free. There's also an online Facebook group called Inside Scoop. It's Dr. Karen Becker, Rodney Habib. It's a private, fee-based, I think it's like $10 a month. Phenomenal information, phenomenal. They have experts, they look at studies, they have holistic vets, they have integrative medicine expertise, they had someone from the Environmental Working Group. a few weeks ago come in and talk about water and other things in the home. Fabulous information. If you are seeking more information and resources and education, that's a great source for you as well. And then there's things like online training programs. I'm just sharing some things that I have done, and other people have done as well. But the Lightfoot Way, they are amazing. They do everything from animal communication to basic holistic health to crystals and color and a lot of energy type of things, muscle testing, workshops. All these things can be done online as well. Dr. Ruth Roberts has a holistic pet health coach program, certification program, if you are interested in becoming a holistic health coach for pets. There is the Academy of Natural Health Sciences Training Center. They have accredited like online certifications and diplomas that you can actually get and study like college, if you wanted to go with like a major certification or even a naturopath degree, things like that. That'd be a great resource for you to learn more. The Mind, Body, Spirit Release Academy teaches practitioners how to do mind, body, spirit release, and it is a multi-step type of program. But you can also get your holistic health practitioner certification or board certification after you complete levels 2 and 3 on that. Dr. Will Falconer has courses that he offers on his website as well, from rabies vaccines to homeopathy and all sorts of different things, natural rearing. Dr. Katie Woodley, one of my dear friends, has her services, and she has her blueprint program. She does courses that last several weeks at a time too, and she's just got a host of information as a holistic vet who is passionate about helping pet parents and empowering pet parents do better with their pets. So these are just a few recommendations. There are so many more. I cannot even cover them all, but I hope this gets you started, at least give you some ideas, and think about what resonates with you and what piques your interest the most and what you want to go learn more about, because that will just open this can of worms and you'll go down rabbit holes and it'll be so much fun. But remember, learning is fun, right? And I also have some really good options with us here at Purrrfectly Holistic. So I have an amazing team. I know Deanna's here today. She does Reiki and she's amazing with chakra clearings, amazing Reiki healing. She's worked on my kitties. It's quite a transformation, I have to say. And then Nina is here, and she is trained in Akashic record readings, which is pretty cool, and animal communicator. Her abilities are astounding to me. And then Kate Caruso Sharp is also one of our communicators, and she has a very unique ability to have a 3-way conversation with you and your pet, as if you're all three sitting in the same place having a chat. She's like the intermediary. Unbelievable. So I highly recommend these ladies. I also do holistic health assessments for cats and mind, body, spirit release for pets and their pet parents. So, and then we also have some workshops available. So if you want to learn how to do muscle testing, I have a workshop for that. If you want to learn more about color therapy, I have a workshop for that. I'm teaming up with Poppy Phillips here in the next couple of weeks to do an iridology workshop. So there's always opportunities to learn. We just have to take those steps and start jumping in one little bit at a time. All right. And then if you want to stay in touch with me, we are on all the social media platforms you see here, and you can always connect through Messenger. You can send us an email at support@purrrfectlyholistic.com or just pam@purrrfectlyholistic.com. So I will stop the screen and stop share, and we'll go back in here. And I just want to say thank you guys for being here. Let me know if you have any questions. I'll be happy to go through that. Okay, let me see. Okay, so David says, what is your recommendation for your preferred book on homeopathy or homeopathic remedies for animals? Dr. Pitcairn has a really good resource. I cannot remember the name, Dr. Pitt, if you Google Dr. Pitcairn homeopathy for pets, you'll find a book. I don't remember the title of it, but he's like the father of homeopathy for pets. And he did all of the initial training for veterinary homeopaths here in the United States. And I have worked with two of those people, Dr. Falconer and Jan Fasinelli in Denver. Both amazing. They were in the same class, in fact. So yeah. And then if you just want to learn more about homeopathy and finding remedies, you can do this very simple, basic thing like go to DuckDuckGo or go to Google and go homeopathy for sinus infections. You don't have to put pet, but you can put, just that. And it's going to pull up all these great resources, and it will show you in their articles the remedy, and then what all the rubrics are, the symptoms. And you can just go through and search and go, okay, well, that sounds exactly what I have, or your cat. Sometimes it's hard because we don't always understand what our cats are feeling, but it gives you a really good idea. Jenny says, one thing not included on the toxic exposure is laundry detergent, fabric softeners. Yes, yes. By all means, our cats love to sit on warm, snuggly blankets, right? And they will have exposure to the chemicals in that laundry soap or those dryer sheets that we've used on those products. So I highly recommend taking those toxic things out, like get rid of your Tide, get rid of your Gain, and go look at something that's more natural, that doesn't have those toxic chemicals on it, because it makes a huge difference on the toxic load in their body and in your body. Remember, because those chemicals stay in us until we detox and get them out. Glyphosate in cat litter. Yeah, the thing is with cat litter, I don't trust anything that is made from genetically modified foods. If it's made, there's GMO sprayed or glyphosate sprayed wheat, corn, and soy products. I don't trust that it's not glyphosate free. I just don't, because those are like the three main highly sprayed crops that use glyphosate or Roundup. And so in their manufacturing process, they are not required to remove that, and they are not required to test for that when they put it on the market in a pet food product or a pet litter product. So just be mindful of that. And fragrances, yeah. Fragrances, cats have like 200,000 scent receptors, some crazy number in their nose. We don't have that many. But they can smell stuff that we can't smell. So just be real mindful of scents and fragrance, even our perfumes and things like that. That's why they don't want to be around us if we smell really strong, because they just can't take it. Thank you, Ashley. Yes, Dr. Pitcairn. That man, he's amazing. Okay, so what is the most natural cat litter that you recommend? I have been using Hinoki wood pellets. I like the wood pellets. And they also have the crushed wood. That's pretty natural. I always tell people this: the best cat litter is the one that your cat will use, because they all have an opinion, right? So I'm not a big fan of clay, and I'm not a big fan of silica because I don't want it ingested. So things like maybe coconut husk, walnut husk, grasses. If your cat is not super allergic to grasses and pollens and things, maybe grass would work. Try the wood litter. I know that OcoCat has different kinds of wood litter, from the real fine to the crushed to the pellets. So you've got some different options there. You just got to do your research. Unfortunately, this is the kind of world we live in. We can't just take things at face value. We have to do our research. David says, I use walnut. It clumps well. Yay. Yeah, it does. It does. It's amazing. So, yeah, there's, like I said, 15 years ago, we didn't have all the options that we have today. We have so many more options, which is wonderful. So, okay, let's see if does anybody else have any other questions? If not, I want to be respectful of your time. And if you guys are watching this on the recorded version, if you do have questions, feel free to email them to me at Pam@Purrrfectly and I'll be happy to get back with you. Thank you for your patience. I might get overloaded with questions. Thanks, David. I recently started working with Pam to address issues with Walker, and he's so cute. Just in the first stages of detailed recommendations. Already see a big difference. Yay! That's awesome. Where is your boy anyway? Is he hanging out? He's back there. uh
Yeah, he's taking a nap behind me.
oh, I love it. I love it. That's awesome. Okay. Deanna, do you want to share anything about Reiki real quick? If so, feel free to unmute.
Well, if anyone has any questions, I'm happy to answer them. I'm sure everyone's familiar with Reiki. It's energy healing. So I've been doing it since 2019, but I've been mixing it with a few different techniques. So I kind of mix Reiki with pranic healing, quantum healing, crystal healing. Sometimes I feel like I can hear messages, but I'm not a professional animal communicator like Kate and some other people that you mentioned. But so I clear chakras and auras and straighten energy rays. And then I just like to clear and unblock everything first and then do Reiki. Because if you just do Reiki and they have blockages, then they might not receive all of the energy. So I think a best practice is to clear and unblock and then transfer the energy.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's why I call your Reiki healing like on steroids. Because it's so much more than just Reiki, you know?
Yeah, and some of my clients, they just want me to do Reiki, which is fine, and then some want me to just clear and unblock, for their cats, and then some of them want, both of them combined, so I could do any of those. But Jenny, yes, I do it for humans and pets. I started with animals first because that's what I'm passionate about. I just love all animals, and after I became vegan, I wanted to help animals all over the world, and somehow Reiki kept crossing my path. So I looked into it, and so I could do it from afar. And with any animal, I do it from afar. So even if they live across the street from me, I still do it from afar because I like wave, crystals above them and the pendulum to check their chakras, and I do all this stuff. And I think in person, they'd probably be like, what are you doing? Or I don't know if they'd run away.
Right.
So,
right.
So I use a stuffed animal, which acts as a surrogate for the cat. Or if I do it for a person, I have a teddy bear. So it's a little bit more anatomically correct.
Yeah. That's awesome.
And energy. So anyways, if anyone has any questions, I'm happy to answer them.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you for being here. Okay.
Thanks for having me. This was helpful.
Good. Okay, well, if no one has any other questions, I just want to say thank you for joining us. I will be emailing you guys the slides, and you can click actually on those links on the slides as well as the recording. So thank you again. Enjoy the rest of your day and let us know if we can be here to be of service. But good luck on your journeys. I want you to dive in and just know that you were put here for a reason. And those little seeds are being planted so that you can go learn and grow and provide a more holistic approach to your cat's health. So thank you so much, y'all. Have a good rest of your day. Bye now.